I learned about this financial institution, the Lutheran Lay People's League, from the wife of a colleague on Saturday lunchtime. I'd never heard of it. And then, spookily, I was at a Christmas dinner for the Adelaide Male Voice Choir, and I was sitting next to Catherine Schultz, and I mentioned that I'd heard about this Lutheran Lay People's League because they were Lutheran, they are Lutherans, and she said, "Good heavens, my son works there." It was spooky, and now I want to know more about it. And we welcome Allen Kupke from the LLL, the Lutheran Lay People's League. Hello, Allen.
How are you?
It's a sort of quasi bank. It's a financial organisation, like more like a credit union.
Yeah, we call ourselves a charitable financial institution.
Yes.
But yes, I used to talk about us as being a pseudo bank.
Yep.
And so yes, we do things like a bank, but differently to a bank as well.
My colleague Regan Footner, who went to a Lutheran school, said, "Oh yes, she knew all about it, of course." So when did it start?
We're nearly 100 years old. 1921 we were first set up.
Wow.
Yes, the foresight of those people back then is amazing. And probably they'd be amazed to see it today.
So essentially it's the financial organisation for the Lutheran Church.
Correct.
Yes. And then you encourage school banking.
Correct.
What a wonderful idea.
It's an interesting to hear that there are people that still remember the LLL from their school experience. There's Lutheran schools around Australia. 40,000 kids a day go to Lutheran schools around Australia, and we still believe in school banking. We believe we do it right because our slogan is "Teach them to save before they learn how to spend."
See, my parents and others tried to inculcate this into me, but failed, I'm afraid. But I wished I'd learned that.
I think it's a big thing missing in today's culture. I heard earlier in the day on the Drive Show talking about parents need to teach their kids how to save, and it's very important, and it's missing.
I tell young people, not that they listen, Alan, but I say save your money. It's important because look, as I say, it's okay to be young and poor, but you don't want to be old and poor.
Correct.
Oh dear. Now, is it national or just South Australia?
It's always been national.
Oh, I see.
We're based in South Australia. We only have one branch, but we have since day one operated nationally from Adelaide.
Oh, really? That's interesting. Not many things can do that. Anyway.
No, it is a bit unique to be SA based these days.
Wow. Now, what appealed to me was I was told by my informants that you can go to this bank and there are tellers there, and you can get a passbook, and you can put money in a passbook. Now, electronic banking, which you also have, don't
Correct.
you, is very convenient.
Yep.
But there's a lot to be said for the passbook. There's a lot to be said for the fact that you put money in, you have to actually go there to take it out.
Electronic banking these days makes it a lot easier for people to access the money because people get paid electronically. They can also transfer money electronically. The passbook has been the traditional method. It's not obligatory if people want it. Yes, if they don't want it, online is the way to go.
I went, as I say, now this is, I stress that you are a not-for-profit,
Correct.
Charitable organisation.
Correct.
I was really impressed. There were nativities there. Now, I'm a poor Christian, but you don't see nativities.
No, we are a Christian organisation, and that's something that people need to recognise, that as a charitable financial institution, we are there to support the Lutheran Church.
Sure.
So anybody depositing with us has to acknowledge that that's what we're all about.
And there were nice people who were very helpful, the tellers.
Good to hear.
And it was fantastic. It was like a time warp. It was like going back to an old-fashioned.
Yes, we are a bit
old
old.
years
yes.
ago. But that's good, and I think people would relate to that.
Yes.
Because I think the world has becoming increasingly impersonal. Banks don't want us talking to tellers. They want us on machines. I didn't see a single machine the whole time I was there. It was really very refreshing.
Yeah, customer service is one of our strong points, we believe. We focus on that. We believe, and maybe that's because we're a different sort of organisation. It's our culture. It's the way we started. And so therefore, yeah, we believe in serving the customers.
How many do you employ, Alan?
We only have a staff of just over 20.
Yes.
But the size of our organisation, we have over 40,000 depositors Australia-wide.
Wow.
We have over $1.2 billion worth of deposits.
And it's not exclusive to Lutherans.
No.
Anybody can come.
No, the main thing is that people acknowledge that if they open an account, they're actually helping to support the Lutheran Church. So if they don't want to do that, they shouldn't be thinking about opening an account.
But, you know, when we open an account in one of the big four banks, we're helping to support their shareholders, aren't we?
Correct.
You know, the ANZ Bank made $6.4 billion profit last year. Now, that all goes to the shareholders. And it's making, it could be argued that these banks are making these profits by reducing services, which you're not, that's not what you do.
No. No, we've always believed in personal customer service. Of course, that's tricky with just the one branch.
Yes.
But similarly, even our telephone service, we have an answering service for after hours, but we personally answer the phone. So we don't have press 1, press 2.
Yep.
We will personally deal with the customers.
I can attest to that. And I was really charmed, being an old person with a weird bladder, Alan, that you could use the loo there. And you have to use a code, but that's fine.
It's a service we provide.
That was wonderful. Now, you don't get that much nowadays. No. And and someone, you know, I had come a long way, actually. And, you know, this can happen. It seemed friendly, and it seemed to be about personal service.
Correct.
Now, what's your arc? What's your career with the bank? Did you come to the bank, or have you been there a long time?
I've been there over 30 years.
Good heavens.
I am part of the furniture.
Yeah.
But it's not unusual for our staff to stay a long time. In fact, there are a few staff that have been there longer than me.
Wow.
So we do have longevity of staff, but we also have turnover as well, which is good. We bring in new ideas as well.
And did you come from another bank?
No, I came from a manufacturing background. I'm a bean counter. I'm an accountant. So I actually worked for a good old South Australian company called Kelvinator when I left university. So I came from there to the LLL 30-odd years ago, and they haven't gotten rid of me yet.
Do you only employ Lutherans?
No. Historically we tended to.
Yes, you could.
Yep. No, we tended to longer ago, but with our growth in recent years, we need to expand further. And we've been blessed with getting fantastic employees. We really are blessed to get the right person at the right time.
Allen Kupke from the Lutheran Lay People's League, or LLL.
That's the easiest way to put it.
In Archer Street, North Adelaide. Rob from Yankalilla is asking, how do the rates compare to the banks and credit unions?
Yep, I often talk that the rates are not good anywhere where you go these days. 1.5% is our deposit rate, which is an at-call rate, which if you look at a straight at-call deposit these days, without any bells and whistles and without having to jump through hoops, that is still a reasonably good rate. We are not necessarily a leader, and we have a straightforward product. We have a simple savings account product.
Yep. And that's it.
And no fees and charges, which is probably the thing that a lot of people think is unique these days.
And so the Lutheran schools do their banking with you?
Yep.
And churches?
Correct. We have probably about 40% of our overall deposits are church organisations, about 60% are private or retail deposits.
And you use your funds to fund the work of the Lutheran Church all over the world?
No, it's only Australia. So a simple model is deposit funds are used first of all to provide loans to church projects. We can only loan to Lutheran church projects, churches, schools, aged care facilities, areas like that. Any surplus funds that we don't need for lending, we invest through government secured securities, through other ADIs, other banks, etc.
What's an ADI?
ADI is an approved or authorised deposit-taking institution, fundamentally banks, credit unions, building societies. So we don't invest in property, we don't invest in shares. So it's a fairly conservative investment philosophy.
So what do you invest in?
It's in term deposits, etc. with banks. So it's a fairly simple investment philosophy.
There's a lot to be said for frugality and prudence and temperance in financial organisations. You know, I was saying to you off air today, I'm very thrilled to be part of the Nord Age Cottage Homes, which provides low-cost housing to aged pensioners, and has been doing this for a very long time, and has been run extremely well and extremely prudently by Rotarians. And, you know, it's careful, and careful, and there's a lot to be said for that, isn't there?
Yes, conservatism is sometimes frowned upon, but I know when the GFC, many years ago now, when that came along, the conservative of our form of our investments was seen as a positive. So there's advantages and disadvantages.
You must get a lot of comments from people new to you, or, you know, your customers, like me, that you're so relieved you can ring and talk to somebody. As you used to be, I used to be able to ring my bank branch and talk to the manager or somebody. You can't anymore. It's a central number, and you're talking to someone in New Zealand or the Philippines or somewhere. Or that you can come in and actually speak to a person. You know, it horrifies me that banks now are, you know, there's a concierge as you come in asking what you want to do, and they're essentially told to send you to a machine, and that person is having to do themselves out of a job, and that's sad, isn't it?
Exactly. And once again, as I said earlier, the customer service is paramount. We do a customer service a survey every year, and it is one of the big positive things that our customers say, that they like that personal service, whether it's at the counter or on the phone.
What are the challenges for you at the Lutheran Lay People's League?
Really, the biggest challenge is probably low rates these days. So therefore, being able to produce, we don't make profits, we make surpluses. And so being able to produce a surplus, but get the balance right between what we're paying to the depositors, what we're charging on loans, and then what we're able to provide to the church. So low interest rate environment is tricky.
I think it would appeal to people that you're not dealing in shares, because, you know, I've never owned a share in my life, Alan. Have you?
I have once, and with Kelvinator when I was working for them.
But
and through my super funds, I also do, but not directly.
Well, that's the problem, isn't it? I mean, we don't know really, and I think it worries people that, you know, the ethical concerns there, and whether we don't own. Most people don't own shares, but we have interest in shares, and who knows what our financial institutions are doing. Even if they're making good money, it can be unethical, and I think that's a concern. I think we'll see more of that.
Yes, and community support through the Lutheran Church. Yes, we believe that we are in an ethical situation, that we're supporting ethical society. So definitely through aged care, the schools, and also community care. There's a lot of money that goes through there.
Your education system is admirable, and also church attendance is dropping.
Correct.
But less so in the Lutheran Church than others.
Yes, it is another one of our challenges, that our demographics is skewed towards the older age group. So definitely in the next 10 or 15 years, we, together with all churches, have some big challenges there.
Well, I was thrilled to learn about you, and I wish you well, and you and your staff, Alan. And
Thank you.
It's very good to know this. Deb's saying I wouldn't give up my passbook for quids, despite my bank trying to convince me to go to statements, etc. Yes, passbooks are not offered for new accounts. Thanks, Deb. And my kids do have accounts with the LLL, set up by my sister, says Rob from Yankalilla. Okay. Thank you very much. I'm very pleased to hear about this organisation, and I wish you well. Thank you very much. And you've got a nice staff there.